Types of unemployment in India is that cyclical unemployment, seasonal unemployment, frictional unemployment, educated, technical, structural, disguised. Cyclical is that unemployment resides during the downtrend of exists during the downtrend phase of a trade cycle in economy. In business cycle during the period of recession and depression, income and output fall leading to widespread unemployment. It is caused by deficiency of effective demand. Cyclical unemployment can be cured by public investment or expansionary monetary policy. Seasonal employment is active during the certain seasons of year, like agriculture and agri-based industries like sugar industries. Production industry activities are carried only out in some seasons. Therefore, people remain unemployed during the off season. As examples for demand side also, example ice cream industry, holiday resorts, etc. Frictional employment, temporary unemployment. Frictional unemployment arises due to imbalance between the supply of labor and demand for labor. This is because of immobility of labor, lack of necessary skills, a breakdown of machinery, shortage of raw materials. When masons lose jobs and are in search of new jobs, they want to wait for some time. This period of joblessness is called frictional unemployment. Educational unemployment. Educated people are unemployed because when qualification does not match to job, faulty education system, lack of employable skills, mass educated student turnout, and preference for white collar jobs are highly responsible for educated unemployment in employment in India. Technically, unemployment is modern technology being capital intensive requires less laborers and contributes to technological unemployment. Nowadays, invention and innovations lead to the adoption of new technologies, thereby existing workers are retrenched. Labor saving devices are responsible for technological unemployment. Structural unemployment is due to the change in structure of society. Lack of demand for the product or shift in demand to other products cause this type of unemployment. For example, rise in demand for mobile phones has adversely affected demand for cameras, tape recorders, etc. So this kind of unemployment results from massive and deep-rooted changes in economic structure. Disguised unemployment occurs when more people are there than when there is actually required. Even if some workers are withdrawn, production does not suffer. This type of unemployment is found in agriculture. A person is said to be disguised unemployedly if this contribution to output is less than what he can produce by working for normal hours per day. Marginal productivity of labor is zero or less or negative. Classical theory of employment. There was no single theory which could be labeled as classical theory of employment. Classical theory of employment is composed of different views of classical economics on an issue of income and employment in the economy. Adam Smith wrote the book An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations in 1776. Since the publication of this book, classical theory was developed by David Ricardo, J. S. Mill, J.B.C. and Lacy Pigot. Classical economics assumes that economy operates at the level of full employment without inflation in the long period. They also assume that wages and prices of goods are flexible and the competitive market existed in the economy. Laissez-faire economy says law of market says the core of the classical theory of employment. Says law of markets. J.B. Say was a French economics and industries. He was influenced by the writings of Adam Smith and David Ricardo. In JB's enunciates the proposition that supply creates its own demand. When goods are produced, they pay rewards to the factors of production. After receiving rewards of factors of production, spend the amount on the purchase of goods and services produced by them. Therefore, each product produced in the economy creates demand equal to its value in the market. In short, this classical theory explains as a person receives his income from production which is spent on the purchase of goods and services produced by others for the economy as a whole. Therefore, total production equals total income. According to assumptions on sales law for market, that no single buyer or seller or commodity or an input can affect price. Full employment People are motivated by self-interest. Laissez-faire policy is essential for automatic and self-adjected process of full employment equilibrium. Market forces determine everything. Right, there will be perfect competition in labor and market. There is price scarcity. Money acts only as a medium of exchange. Long run analysis, there is no possibility for overproduction or unemployment. Unutilized resources used until they reach full employment. No government intervention. Automatic price adjustment mechanism is operated. Interest rate flexibility leads to saving. Investment equality implication of sales law. There is no possibility for overproduction or unemployment. If there is a existing utilized resources in the economy, it is profitable to employ them up to the point of full employment. This is true under the condition that factors are willing to accept rewards on a par with their productivity. As automatic price mechanism operates in the economy, there is no need for government intervention. Interest flexibility brings about the equality between saving and investment. Money performs only the medium of exchange function in the economy as well. People will not hold idle money. Criticism of sales law according to Keynes supply does not create its according to Keynes supply does not create its demand, whereas for according to say supply creates its own demand. For Keynes it is not applicable where demand does not increase as much as production increases. Automatic adjustment process will not remove unemployment. Unemployment can be removed by increasing the rate of investment. Money is not neutral. Individuals hold money for unforeseen contingencies while business and keep its cash reserve for future activities. Sales law is based on proposition that supply creates its own manufacturing and there is no overproduction. Since that the overproduction is possible, Keynes regards full employment as a special case because there is underemployment in capitalist economies. The need for state intervention arises in the case of general overproduction and mass employment. Keynes' book "The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money" was published in 1936, a turning point in the modern economic theory. Keynes was not only criticized classical economics but also advocated his own theory of employment. Keynes' theory was a general theory as it tried to explain all types of situations, not only equilibrium level but also concept of full employment as well as possibility of underemployment. Keynes' theory of employment was based on the view of short run. According to him, factors of production such as goods, capital goods, supply, labor, and efficiency of labor remain unchanged while determining the level of employment. Keynes was one of the most influential economists of the 20th century. He was born in Cambridge in 1883. In addition to his work as an economist, he held positions such as civil servant, director of the Bank of England, and leader of British delegation of negotiators at the Bretton Woods Conference. At points in his career, economic theory based on his idea is known as Keynesian economics, and it remains highly influential today, particularly in the field of macroeconomics. The starting point of Keynes' theory of employment and income is the principle of effective demand. Effective demand demands money actually spent by the people on products of industry. The money which entrepreneurs receive is paid in the form of rent, wages, interest, and profit. Effective demand equals national income. An increase in the aggregate effective demand would increase the level of employment. A decline in the total effective demand would lead to unemployment. Therefore, total employment of a country can be determined with the help of total demand of a country. Keynes' theory of employment effective demand signifies the money spent on consumption of goods and services and on investment. Aggregate demand function. Keynes model output is mainly triggered by aggregate demand. The aggregate demand is the amount of money which entrepreneurs expect to get by selling the output produced by employees. Therefore, it is expected income or revenue from sale of output to different employees. See, the aggregate demand has the following core components: consumption demand, investment demand, government expenditure, and net import. Export minus import. The decide or plan the demand is the amount that households, firms, the governments, and the foreign purchasers would like to spend on domestic output. The net exports is the difference between exports and imports, and the desired spending is called aggregate spending. Demand and can be expressed as uh, C, C plus plus I plus difference between exports and imports. Express that aggregate demand curve increases at increasing rate in the beginning and then increases at a decreasing rate. Aggregate supply function is an increasing function of the level of employment. Aggregate supply function is an increasing function of the level of employment. Aggregate supply refers to the value of total output of goods and services produced in an economy in a year. Aggregate supply refers to the required amount of labels and materials to produce the necessary output. The production involves cost if the revenue from the sale of output exceeds cost of production at a given level. Employment, the entrepreneur will be encouraged to employ more labor and other inputs to produce more. Aggregate supply price is the total amount of money that all the enterprises in an economy expect to receive from the sale of output. The term price refers to the amount of money received from the sale of output. Hence, there are different aggregate prices for different levels of employment. Components of aggregate supply are aggregate consumption expenditure, aggregate private savings S, net tax payments T, personal decide transfer payments or the foreigners RF. Aggregate supply is equal to C plus S plus T plus RF.